would start by saying a few more words about J-WEL, and to lay out what the mission of our organization is, some of the things we've been doing, and our vision for what we want to accomplish next, which is very much entwined with the ideas we've just been hearing about. And after I get a chance to do a bit of those introductory comments, my colleague Julia is going to talk a little bit about what the membership actually looks like and what some of the elements are, and help explain more about the origin and evolution of the way we work with different institutions. So as we've just heard, J-WEL was created in collaboration of MIT and Community J-WEL, a very visionary funder who has invested in a variety of really interesting ideas at MIT. So in many ways, you may have heard of some of this other work that has been supported by Community J-WEL, including perhaps the mecca of the RCT method for studying interventions in economic, educational, health, and other systems, J-PAL. So J-PAL is the Jamil Abdul Latif J-WEL Poverty Action Lab, which has built a global network of research scientists who take policy ideas and test them in a very specific way, the famous randomized controlled trial method for testing interventions. But in many ways, I had the chance to meet Mr. J-WEL recently, and he said, the impact we can have with J-WEL far exceeds that of anything else I've invested in ever. And we're very excited to be digging into that very notion. Education, as we don't need to even tell you, we are here because you believe in it, is a vehicle for spurring evolution, development, growth, advancement that has so much promise all across the world. And yet we know that the very methods that have allowed some, say, J-PAL to grow, which sort of have an atomized intervention that can be tested and reported on, those don't apply so easily to the more complex situations we're addressing. So how do you understand context? How do you understand history? How do you understand what works in one setting and what could work elsewhere? This requires a concerted effort and a true partnership. That's what J-WEL is about. So we're taking the notion of innovation and advancement in education and trying to figure out where can we partner with an institution, sometimes with multiple institutions, in ways that will enable us to leverage, to make the most of what we have access to at MIT, and also to contribute to the body of knowledge, to research, to case study research, and really importantly, to conversations like today's. So J-WEL was set up about 5 years ago, and the idea was our partners would find us, we'd go find them, and would begin a dialogue with an educational institution with a vision that we would help them to map out for how they might improve. And very importantly, how could we tap into and harness ideas that emerge from our own experience at MIT, but also our access to global conversations. Sitting at MIT, one realizes one is in a very privileged position. And we're lucky enough not only to be able to work with amazing colleagues, students, alums, companies, governments, and nonprofits, but also because folks knock on our door. Claudia knocks on the door one day and people come by and talk to us. So not only does this allow us to build a relationship with you, but also with your colleagues all over the world. So we invite both junior faculty, we will talk to researchers at any level, senior faculty, but all the way up through rectors and heads of universities all over the world. And in fact, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, We hosted universities from all over the world. It was great to have you there. We also got a chance to have the head of, for instance, University of Sao Paulo. That's a massive organization with a huge mission to improve research and to link that to ongoing research on protecting Amazonia, which got MIT folks really excited, but also allowed us to frame some important new research objectives that could emerge from a collaboration with them. So we've been building these dialogues and conversations. We've been trying to create what we think will be very compelling learning and dialogue opportunities. So we put together workshops. You've seen some of those in the previous pictures. And we also create meetings and moments where we could bring together threads of ideas and link them systematically. Most recently, we held a workshop looking at innovation ecosystems. So I thought I'd offer a word or two on that and then turn the mic over to Julia. So why did we pick this topic of doing a week on innovation ecosystems? It's very much in the air. We knew that you were interested in this conversation. And it was a really good moment for us to take a look at what has been going on at MIT on this very topic. And as you'll see later on when I talk a bit about some of our methods for improving quality on campus, part of what we've been doing in recent years is building up a body of research and study, and some of it is action research, so we learn by doing, on innovation ecosystems. So not only have we looked at how ecosystems have emerged around our own and other institutions, but we're really interested in what are the tools and methods that one can use prospectively to help create and fuel innovation ecosystems. Coming out of that discussion, we had several frameworks, we had ideas for upcoming workshops, and we have materials that we're happy to share with you because you're J-WEL members. So we can bring you some of that material and help you take a look at and think about innovation ecosystems that way. By the way, J-WEL also works in K through 12 education and in workforce learning. And that's not very common that you'll have, a foot in all three, I don't know, how many things have 3 feet? But anyway, a foot in all 3 domains. We could have a 3-legged stool, that's what it is. And it gives us the chance to also raise important questions. And it actually, some of them have already come up in our discussions with some of you. How can we ensure that high school and even younger levels of education appropriately prepare students for college? How do we help students to understand what they could be? We often don't teach engineering in high school, so how would you know you might like to be an engineer? Another thread linking these domains is understanding career pathways and trajectories. And everybody knows those are morphing all the time. How do you keep current? How do you pull out potential pathways for individuals and even for institutions to help to build that will enable folks at any level, whether they're in school, in college, or in the workforce, to better understand where they could head next? So that's another common thread linking all of our domains. And interestingly, we do work with governments increasingly. So not only do we have some other projects we can tell you about, I'll just mention one, which is with the government of Belize. We are actually looking at reforming the entire school system. In this case, by building a model school based on STEAM principles, but also involving a lot of hands-on learning and even mini internships with industry, in part to address challenges that the entire nation sees in developing its human capacity. So projects like that, they get us talking to governments, they get us thinking about going from an N of 1 to an N equals the whole country, and challenges us as researchers and as action implementers to really think carefully about how a given experiment, a given test, a given innovation might scale up. That is the work ahead of us here at J-WEL, and we're really excited that we have your partnership in that step. Now I'm going to turn it over to Julia, who will add a lot more detail.
Thank you, Julie. I'll walk over and grab this. First, we're so excited to be here. I feel like we've been talking about and learning about Latvia for the past, year and a half since we first met. So it's really exciting to be here. Thank you so much to everyone for the really warm welcome. So as Claudio mentioned, he talked about how Latvia is currently engaging with the J-WEL membership. You heard the kind of wide angle view from Angelia. Now I'll talk a little bit about membership. Again, I'm Julia Reynolds-Quajar, and I'm the Associate Director for J-WEL Higher Education, but now leading the membership team at J-WEL. So as Angelia mentioned, our mission at J-WEL is to transform learning for all. And we do this through projects, larger projects like the Belize project that Angelia just mentioned, but also through membership. And the way membership carries out that mission is that we work with members who come with an educational opportunity or goal that they have in mind. And they also, and perhaps most importantly, join this sense of community that you mentioned, Claudio. So you come in some cases with other members who are thinking about the same topic that you are, that have the same goal, that have the same challenge, and then we can share amongst each other a lot of the work that we're doing. As Angelia mentioned, J-WEL started in 2018. And in 2020, we had an education researcher at MIT look at some of the outcomes and the work that our members in J-WEL were doing. And you can see them listed here. A lot of them are connected with curriculum redesign and reform, course design, but also you can see there's new projects, new programs, and even new centers. And now we're actually in the process of looking at those again, now that we're almost 3 years on from that. So who are our members? Again, as Angelia mentioned, we work across this idea of the lifelong learning scope span. And again, don't have to tell this room why that's important, but I'll just mention, because you're actually speaking about it earlier, you were making the point is that when you think about education transformation, it can't just happen in a silo. All of these are really connected to each other. And we have a lot of topics in J-WEL that really fluently connect across all the different domains and sectors. Our members are influential. And we define that as being a member that's really interested in scaling and sharing the information and the work that they're doing. Again, Latvia and the work that you saw earlier is a really great example of that. And part of the reason this is so important is J-WEL, at least membership, will never be a huge entity. We like to keep, we care deeply about the sense of community. And for us, community means that you know who else is in the community. You remember the people that came to a previous workshop that you were involved in, or you know the issues and the challenges that another university or member might be facing. And that kind of dialogue is really important for us. So because we'll never be large, it's really important that the members we work with have this goal to scale and share all the work that they're doing. So again, we can reach this large global transformation goal that we have. There we go. Claudio showed a map that was quite nice. Here's another one to look at. So here's all of the members that we have represented across the globe. And this is exciting for a few reasons. Is one, you can see the kind of clusters and regions. And we actually had some really grassroots efforts appear from our members who said, let's work together as regional partners and let's think about different solutions we can come up with that make sense for our region. This happened in the Latin American region where we had a group actually right before the pandemic. So it was really useful that they had started working together, think about ways that they can put their labs and the courses they teach online. But also why we all like this map is it shows a real global scale. And we also have members that come and say, J-WEL is the only place where I can hear what's going on in higher education at the other side of the globe. And I don't normally get the chance to be able to do that. This was also, I think, now getting to be 3 or so years ago. And I love talking about this in a word that I heard you say, Angelia. We looked at things that our members were thinking about and also challenges and goals that were going on at MIT and within J-WEL, and we bucketized them. That's the word, bucketizing. Yeah. I like it. So we put them in all these different buckets of themes and topics that are really critical and important that our members are thinking about. And you can see there's 4 listed here. Again, we're in the process of doing this reevaluation and thinking about new buckets that we can have of our different themes. Again, as you saw, most of our members were thinking about the overall curriculum structure and instructional processes. But of course, when the pandemic hit, we did a lot with online and blended learning, as you know and can imagine. So with all of that said, each year and actually using all of the information we got from the preceding year, in this case it would be 2021, we put together a timeline of activities. So last year, in 2021, we had conversations with members, we had visits, such like the one we're having now. We had members of our team sit in all the different workshops and activities that we do, and they listen for challenges, for questions that were coming up, for themes and topics that were being repeated, and then we use this to really co-design this timeline of activities that you can see that were carried out in this year, and some of which you saw pictures from there. And this actually, one thing I can add, one interesting thing that we heard, in case it resonates here from our members in 2021, is that they were getting a bit sick of talking about online teaching and digital tools and moving their classes online. And actually they were thinking more about systems thinking and change management. And now that we're moving into a new phase of education, particularly in higher education, how do you get people excited about that? How do you bring faculty along? How do you bring staff along? So you can see a lot of that work represented here with the university governance workshop that Anjali led. We did a workshop on systems thinking, and then we did a workshop on co-design with another unit at MIT D-Lab. And Anjali mentioned this, and it's quite appropriate given the topic for today. But I also wanted to show this for a few other reasons. One, it's really exciting because the picture on the left-hand side is from the J-WEL week that we had before the pandemic. It was the last one we were able to have in person. And then the one on the right is the one we just had a few weeks ago, finally back in person on the MIT campus. The one on the left where we focus on building a university innovation ecosystem, it was actually inspired in part because there was a new article that came out from our colleagues in the MIT Innovation Initiative, in which they put out the 5 different pillars of a university-led innovation ecosystem. And it was very useful for us and for J-WEL and for our community, but it was also focused on the US context. And not only the US context, but the MIT, Cambridge, Massachusetts context. So it was very specific. So what we did is say, can we make that more relevant for our global context from all of those countries that we're representing? So that's what we did in real time. And this actually black graphic, it was an actual physical board that we had in the room. And we had a graphic facilitator that was writing down everyone's input as we thought about globalizing this approach. And it's actually very cool. Everyone signed it. This little small image on the left was everyone's signatures. And then we also had the graphic facilitator turn it into a PDF that could be easily shared. So all the participants could go home and then pass it along to others at their university. And this one is the right, is the one we had just a few weeks ago, which perhaps I think super coincidentally, but really relevant for us. There was another article that the MIT Innovation Initiative put out. And this time they were saying, how do you strategically engage your innovation ecosystem? So we had the author from that article lead one segment of the work that we're doing. And we had another researcher who leads a research group in the Schwarzman College of Computing talking about how you map the ecosystem. And in this picture here, Christine is there, which is another reason I wanted to show this. Our participants were mapping their own ecosystems and specifically thinking about assets and identifying assets in their ecosystem. There we go. And this one I actually added in inspired by a lot of what we heard this week. Yesterday, the days are flying by, but yesterday we were at RSU and we're actually looking at a lot of the work that they're doing in simulation and thinking about the work they're doing in teaching innovation. We were just talking a lot about it earlier, so I added this slide in. This is an example of a workshop that we did in 2019, but actually continue to do, in which at the time another faculty and I were saying, course design and course, it's really important, but one of the challenges with teaching is that there's never enough time to simply focus on teaching. So again, the faculty I was working with at the time said, can we have a workshop where it's 2 weeks on the MIT campus, faculty come and all they think about is redesigning a course that they currently teach or a course that they plan to teach. And that's exactly what happened. So the faculty came across the globe. While they were working on redesigning their course, we also had, in this year, it was, I think, 31 different MIT faculty who came and talked about courses that they're teaching that were relevant to the ones the participants were teaching. And then again, in real time, the courses were redesigned. We also had MIT students there, and they were serving as TAs, so that if the faculty member wanted to test out an exam question they had or a problem set, the student can come right over and do it. And you can see here the output, 90% of participants redesigned their course. And a lot of those modules designed happened during the 2 weeks on the MIT course, but then it continued to grow. And as Claudio mentioned, we're looking forward to the next round of participants coming from Latvia, and we really are excited about 2023. And I want to share some of the things that we've been thinking about. The first is this idea, we're really excited about all the activities that you've seen. Again, Claudio showed the pictures and Anjali spoke about them. How can we make them continuous and make sure that if an exciting idea comes up in a workshop, that the thread and the work can follow over the course of the year? So one approach we're doing is using what we're calling experts in residence, or perhaps a name still to be determined. But really the idea is, well, we're starting with MIT experts, someone who's an expert in one of those topics that we're really interested in. Start with some activity, but again, we continue the conversations and the work even in informal settings. It could be a Zoom roundtable session, so that if you start with an idea, we can follow it through over to the course over the year. So we're really excited about that. And also tied to that, thinking more about shareable and scalable output. So one thing we actually did with the J-WEL week that I just showed, for the first time ever, we had a sort of a podcast audio recording of the main takeaways from our 2-segment leads. So we're planning to send that out actually next week. So I hope everyone in this room will be able to listen to the main takeaways that we discussed over the course of that week. And finally, we're really excited about this, is thinking about case studies. So how can we actively capture those lessons and all of the expertise and work that you and all of our other members are doing, and make it so that it's easy to share and our community can start to serve as a repository. And then finally, we're really excited about the cooperation with Latvia for continuing the membership, for the larger work that we'll be doing in the project, and we look forward to working with you all. Paldies!